What if, in Breath of the Wild, Zelda and Link's Triforce pieces are actually switched, with Zelda having the Triforce of Courage and Link the Triforce of Wisdom? This is a theory I've had about Breath of the Wild for a while now. I just never got around to making a video about it before. For one thing, I'm not as well versed in the overall Zelda lore as most Zelda theorists, so I was kind of worried people might get annoyed with me for missing something big that I either should have included in this theory, or that totally contradicts it somehow. I'm a big fan of the Zelda games, but at the end of the day, I'm a casual player, so please just keep that in mind. So whether or not you agree with this theory, I hope you enjoy the video and find it interesting. First of all, just a quick note. When I talk about which Triforce pieces Zelda and Link have in Breath of the Wild, I don't necessarily mean they physically have those pieces like in Ocarina of Time. This is more about them representing or standing for the virtues of those pieces. To me, Breath of the Wild Zelda embodies courage more than wisdom, and Breath of the Wild Link embodies wisdom more than he does courage. Let me explain. I'll start with Link. Playing as Link in Breath of the Wild really seems to me to be more about making wise choices than about pure fighting skill and facing terrifying enemies. I mean, if you really think about it, what is there in Breath of the Wild that compares to the fear inspired by Ocarina of Time boss monsters like Queen Goma, Morpha, or Bongo Bongo? I can hear you elite players laughing, so cut it out. Yes, I know these boss monsters aren't scary to you, but that's because you know all the speedrunning hacks to quickly and easily kill them in seconds. But think of this from the perspective of a kid playing the game for the first time, or from the point of view of the developers designing enemies for the purpose of being intimidating. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, combat really boils down to strategy, preparation of meals and power-ups, creative solutions, and things like that. Thunderblight is the toughest fight I can personally think of in the game, and even he inspires more frustration than fear. Though that may just be the way I look at it. I'm curious if other players feel the same way. The entire game is about finding out more information by unlocking memories and discovering what's happened in Hyrule during the last 100 years, rather than about having the courage to face increasingly hard battles. That's probably a consequence of an open-world design, where it doesn't really matter what order you do things, so you can't really scale the difficulty level between areas or dungeons the way you can in a more linear game. Link doesn't power up very much in Breath of the Wild by fighting boss monsters and clearing dungeons, but rather by training under ancient scholars as he's tested to use creative solutions and solve shrines. Even the test of strength shrines aren't about pure courage or power, but learning the skills to get the job done however you can, in the best way that you can. In fact, the power difference in a new file of Breath of the Wild is based on knowledge of the game and skills learned by the player, more than Link's starting stats, like items or the number of hearts, as compared to Ocarina of Time, for example. In Breath of the Wild, even without using any speedrunning hacks, you can go try to fight Ganon in nothing but your boxers as soon as you've cleared the first 4 shrines on the Great Plateau. You'll probably lose, that is, unless you have enough wisdom to make it work, such as knowing where to find some powerful weapons in Hyrule Castle, for example. Even the hacks themselves fit in with the idea of Link representing the Triforce of Wisdom to me. I've never seen a Zelda game as glitch-friendly as Breath of the Wild, and a lot of these so-called glitches work within the accepted laws of physics and magic of the game, such as stasis launching. There's no end to the ways you can do anything and everything in the game, and we all know that was very much by design. There are many solutions to every or nearly every problem, and it's up to the player to figure out what the best solutions are, or at least choose our personal favorites. Playing Breath of the Wild is a learning experience of trial and error, and once that's been done, you carry the wisdom of what you've learned with you forever. I think that's pretty neat. Now let's talk about Zelda. Her personality in Breath of the Wild is what got me first thinking of this theory, and then other pieces started falling into place. I think the next thing I noticed once I started thinking about it was their eye colors. Zelda's eyes are green, and Link's eyes are blue. Sure, that's a very minor detail, and could absolutely just be a coincidence, but it fits with my theory, so that's why I bring it up. As you go through the game and unlock memories, we see that Zelda is not content to just sit around at Hyrule Castle and wait for the chosen hero, Link, to save the world. She often makes brave, and sometimes foolish decisions, such as getting herself into a dangerous situation with the Yiga clan in the desert, and trying to brute force using the tablet to get into the shrines. In fact, her whole character arc is about having or finding courage. The courage to stand up to her father, fighting alongside her friends to protect Hyrule, the inner struggle between having the courage to face her destiny, or else the courage to choose her own path. When the 4 champions are defeated, Zelda feels personally responsible for not being able to protect them. It's not a lack of wisdom that makes Zelda call herself a failure. It's failing to be there for her friends and her kingdom. She's been locked into the role of background support by fate, but wishes desperately for the strength to save her own kingdom. As Urbosa said, that boy is a living reminder of her own failures. Well, at least that's how the princess sees him. Link's role as the hero represents everything that Zelda feels like a failure for not being. And it's not a moment of wisdom, oh no. It's a moment of courage that finally allows Zelda to unlock her sealing power. That moment when she steps in front of Link to protect his life, with no hesitation of giving her own in his place. All her years of studying and prayers never helped her find that power, but just one split second of bravery unleashed it all at once. It unlocked something else, too. In an earlier memory, Zelda asked Link if he could hear the Master Sword's voice yet. Link doesn't answer, at least not before the memory fades. But when Link lies mortally injured in the last memory at Hateno, the sword does speak to Zelda. If the sword is forever bound to the soul of the hero, then why would Zelda hear the Master Sword's voice and not Link? I don't believe Link hears the sword speak to him. We certainly never hear it as the player, even though we did in Skyward Sword. It might also help explain why the Master Sword keeps losing power in Link's hand and having to recharge. Link is a strong and skilled fighter, and he is definitely someone who is fated to help save Hyrule. But does that mean that he's really intended to be the Master Sword's wielder? I'm sure there's plenty of evidence to show that he is, but it's interesting to think about in any case. Finally, after sending Link to the Shrine of Resurrection and returning the Master Sword to its resting place, Zelda finds the final courage to face Calamity Ganon in locked combat for 100 years. I'm not sure we Zelda fans think enough about what that really means. 100 years without rest, facing Calamity Ganon alone, and not even knowing if the shrine will be able to heal Link, or if she will still be able to hold Ganon back long enough for Link to come defeat him. Even though the chosen hero has been defeated, she refuses to simply give up. And that, I think, shows true courage.